The most anti-gun court in America just ruled that your state cannot ban you from carrying a firearm in public. And if you think that only affects one state, you have no idea how big this is about to get. Quick question before we continue. You subscribe to Gun and Gavel? Because what I'm about to walk you through could be the most important legal shift for gun owners in the last decade. I cover these rulings the moment they drop. If you miss this, you could be walking around thinking you're breaking the law when you actually have every right to carry. Or worse, you could be carrying somewhere thinking you're fine when the law in your state is currently being challenged in court. Either way, that is a dangerous place to be. Subscribe to Gun and Gavel now. I will wait. Okay, let us get into it. Here is what just happened. On January 2nd, 2026, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals just dropped a ruling that honestly shocked even the most experienced gun law attorneys in the country. The case is called Baird versus Bonta, and if you live in California or any state that bans open carry in cities, this ruling is aimed directly at the laws that restrict you. Now, before I explain why this is such a big deal, let me tell you something about the Ninth Circuit. This court is based in San Francisco. It covers California, Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, and several other states. Gun rights advocates have historically called it the most hostile federal court in the country when it comes to the Second Amendment. This is the court that has spent years upholding California's strictest gun laws. So, when this court says a gun law is unconstitutional, that is not just a ruling. That is the equivalent of your toughest critic telling you that you were right all along. Here's exactly what the court ruled. California had a law that made it a crime to openly carry a firearm in any county with more than 200,000 people. Basically, if you lived in a city, open carry was banned. Period. A man named Mark Baird challenged that law. He argued it violated his Second Amendment rights. In a 2-to-1 decision, the Ninth Circuit agreed with him. The court said California's urban open carry ban is unconstitutional. They said the Second Amendment protects your right to carry a firearm in public, not just inside your home. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The court leaned heavily on a 2022 Supreme Court case called New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. You may have heard of the Bruin decision before, but here's the part that most people are still not fully grasping. The Bruin ruling did not just affect New York. It set a nationwide standard. It said that any gun law in America must be consistent with the historical tradition of firearm regulation in this country. In plain English, that means if the law did not exist in 1791, the government has a very hard time justifying it today. And that standard is now being used to tear down gun restrictions from California all the way to Hawaii. But wait, there's something even more important that nobody in mainstream media is talking about. The Ninth Circuit's ruling in Baird versus Bonta does not just matter for California. Here is why. When a federal appeals court like the Ninth Circuit rules that a type of gun ban is unconstitutional, every other state in that circuit has to follow that ruling. That means Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Nevada, Arizona, Idaho, Montana, and Alaska are all affected. Any open carry ban in those states is now on extremely shaky legal ground. Attorneys across all those states are already looking at this ruling and preparing new lawsuits. The dominoes are starting to fall. If you are finding this breakdown helpful, here is what I want you to do. My next video is going to cover the 5 exact words you should say at a traffic stop when an officer asks if you have a firearm. Most gun owners say the wrong thing and create legal problems they did not have to face. Subscribe to Gun and Gavel now. Don't miss that video. It could keep you from making a very expensive mistake. Now, let us talk about the second massive thing happening at the same time, because the timing here is not a coincidence. On January 20th, 2026, the United States Supreme Court heard oral arguments in a case called Wilford versus Lopez. This case came out of Hawaii. Here is the basic situation. After the Bruin decision forced states to allow people to get concealed carry permits, Hawaii passed a new law in 2023. The law said you cannot carry your gun on private property that is open to the public unless the owner specifically gives you permission. Think about what that means in real life. That includes restaurants, that includes stores, that includes parking lots. It includes basically anywhere people gather. Hawaii was using this law to make your concealed carry permit almost worthless in practice. You had a permit, but you could not use it almost anywhere. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this. Imagine you just got your concealed carry permit after months of training and paperwork. You go to the grocery store, you cannot carry there without the owner's specific permission. You go to a restaurant for dinner, same problem. You go to the gym, same problem. By the time you finish your average Tuesday, you have already passed a dozen places where your permit means nothing. That is exactly the situation Hawaii created. And now the Supreme Court of the United States is deciding whether that is legal. This is the part that shocked me when I dug into the oral arguments. Several justices seemed deeply skeptical of Hawaii's law. Justice Clarence Thomas, who actually wrote the Bruin opinion, appeared ready to strike down these kinds of restrictions. Multiple justices asked pointed questions about whether states are using these private property default bans as a backdoor method to effectively eliminate concealed carry. The decision in Wilford versus Lopez is expected sometime in mid to late 2026. And if the Supreme Court strikes down Hawaii's law, that ruling will apply to every similar law in every state in the country. Places like New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and Maryland all have similar restrictions. Every single one of them could fall. Now, here is what most people get wrong about where we are right now legally. Most gun owners think that because their state has certain gun laws, those laws are final and permanent. That is not how it works anymore. The Bruin standard changed everything. Courts are not just updating one law at a time. In 2025 alone, the NRA Institute for Legislative Action tracked case after case where major gun restrictions were struck down by federal courts across the country. New Mexico, 7-day waiting period for gun purchases, was ruled unconstitutional by the 10th Circuit. Multiple other states saw similar rulings. The legal landscape for gun owners is shifting faster right now than at any other point since the Second Amendment was ratified. Now, a quick legal note. This video is educational information only. It is not legal advice for your personal situation. Laws vary by state. They change quickly, and your specific circumstances always matter. Always talk to a qualified attorney in your state before making any decisions about carrying a firearm. Okay, now back to the information. Here is the third major piece of this puzzle, and this one has the potential to affect every single gun owner in all 50 states. In Congress right now, there's a bill called the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2025. The bill number is H.R. 38. Here's what it would do in plain terms. Right now, if you have a concealed carry permit in your home state, it is not automatically valid in other states. It is like a driver's license that only works in the state where you got it. Some states have agreements with each other called reciprocity, but it is a patchwork system. Some states recognize your permit, some do not. You have to look it up every single time you cross a state line. H.R. 38 would end that confusion completely. It would require every state to honor valid concealed carry permits from every other state. Got a permit in Texas? Valid in California. Got a permit in Florida? Valid in New York. Your permit becomes like a federal driver's license for carrying a firearm. The House Judiciary Committee voted to advance this bill. It has over 180 Republican co-sponsors and has been placed on the legislative calendar. The Senate version is also moving. If this bill becomes law, it would be the single biggest expansion of concealed carry rights in American history. Hey, a quick note before we keep going. 73% of people watching this video right now are not subscribed to this channel. That means nearly 3 out of every 4 of you are going to miss the follow-up video where I break down exactly how H.R. 38 works state by state. which states would be forced to accept your permit, and what you need to do to make sure your paperwork is in order before any of this takes effect. Do not be part of that group. Join the more than 50,000 gun owners who rely on this channel for updates like this. Subscribe to Gun and Gavel right now. Now, let me connect all three of these things together for you because separately they are each big news, but together they are describing something much larger. Here is the picture. The Bruin decision from 2022 created a new legal standard that is being used in courts across the country to strike down gun laws. The Ninth Circuit ruling in Baird versus Bonta is the most dramatic example yet, showing that even the most anti-gun federal court in America cannot withstand that standard. The Supreme Court is now hearing Wilford versus Lopez, which could strike down private property carry bans in multiple states all at once. And in Congress, H.R. 38 is pushing toward becoming the law of the land for all 50 states. If you are a gun owner, here's what this means for you personally. First thing, the restrictions you deal with today may not exist a year from now. Second, you need to know your current state laws right now because you are in a transition period. Third, do not assume that because something was illegal last year, it is still illegal today. Courts are moving fast. Fourth, if you carry, get proper training, keep your paperwork current, and stay connected to legal updates. Fifth, watch the Supreme Court's decision in Wilford versus Lopez. When that ruling drops, it is going to generate more headlines than almost anything else in gun law this year. Don't make this mistake, though. Some people are hearing about all these rulings and thinking they can just start carrying anywhere they want right now because the laws are falling. That is dangerous thinking. The Ninth Circuit's ruling in California is currently under a temporary stay. California's Attorney General immediately asked for a pause on enforcement while the case continues. The laws on paper may still be in effect in your state, even if they are being challenged. You need to know the current, active, legally enforced status of the laws where you live, not what they might be in 6 months. This information could literally expire by late 2026 as decisions are finalized. Subscribe to Gun and Gavel right now because my next video covers exactly what you need to do before the Wolford ruling drops and how to position yourself so you're legally protected no matter which way the Supreme Court rules. That video could be the difference between staying legal and walking into a serious situation without knowing it. Here's the bottom line on everything we just covered. The courts are dismantling gun carry restrictions at a pace we have never seen before. The Ninth Circuit just struck down California's open carry ban. The Supreme Court is months away from potentially striking down private property carry bans nationwide. And Congress is actively pushing a bill that would make your concealed carry permit valid in every state in the country. This is not the future. This is happening right now in real time in 2026. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. The legal ground under gun laws is shifting faster than most people realize. The gun owners who stay informed are the ones who stay protected. That is what this channel is here for. Subscribe to Gun and Gavel, turn on notifications, and share this video with one gun owner you know who needs to hear it. They will thank you for it. And remember, this video is for educational purposes only. Always consult a licensed attorney in your state for advice specific to your situation. I will see you in the next.